The night was too quiet in the sleepy cul-de-sac of Willow Creek, Oregon, until it exploded into chaos on August 12th, 2024. Flashing lights sliced through the darkness, a dog howled, and my neighbor, Linda Voss, stood in her zebra-striped pajamas, screaming into her phone, "I've nabbed a rogue chemist." She was pointing at my backyard, where I stood in a faded bathrobe, barefoot on wet grass, clutching a thermal spectrometer and a mug that read world's dullest data nerd. I should have sensed trouble when I caught Linda's shadow lurking behind her curtains at 1 a.m., whispering my every move like she was narrating a true crime podcast. Within 15 minutes, my street was a circus of red and blue lights, fire trucks, hazmat vans, and a police cruiser skidded to a stop. The surreal part? A SWAT officer aiming a rifle at my sample cooler, while Linda high-fived a baffled firefighter, shouting, "I stopped a drug lab." She had no clue I was an FDA field investigator on a covert federal mission. Her 911 call didn't just derail my night, it threatened to blow a critical investigation sky high. It started innocently enough. I just finished tweaking my portable gas chromatography unit, prepping a soil sample in my backyard. To an outsider, my setup looked like a sci-fi fever dream. Mist swirling from cooling coils, LED lights blinking on my gear, and a faint metallic tang from the humming generator. I'd secured everything: fences, biometric locks, the works, but none of it mattered to Linda. To her, wires and machines spelled Breaking Bad. She didn't ask questions. She never did. She just spied, assumed, and acted like she was the neighborhood's self-appointed vigilante. By the time first responders swarmed in, I was mid-test, tracing bacterial contamination linked to foodborne illnesses at 4 local schools. We suspected tainted produce or water, and my job was to pinpoint the source quietly, without sparking panic or alerting potential culprits. That plan died when Linda grabbed a megaphone. Yes, she owned one, and bellowed, "He's brewing something dangerous." The cops ordered me to step back, hands up. I complied, setting the spectrometer on a crate, and flashed my FDA badge. The younger officers hesitated, unsure. A supervisor was radioed in. Meanwhile, Linda, in slippers and a headlamp, pointed at me like I was a lineup suspect, her phone still recording. "He mentioned microbes. That's drug code, right?" she yelled. Her husband, Tom, stood behind her, munching a sandwich, looking like he'd seen this show before. Tension spiked when an officer reached for my locked cooler without gloves. I warned him firmly but calmly. "That's got quarantined bacterial cultures. Open it wrong, and the samples are ruined." He froze, glanced at the cooler, then backed off. Linda wasn't having it. "He's lying. Those are chemicals. I saw him pouring stuff. I heard fizzing," she screeched, then whispered to a sleepy neighbor, "I bet he's making that face-eating drug." The hazmat team started reading my gear labels aloud. "GCMS liquid chromatography, this isn't drug lab stuff." The lead officer verified my credentials via the FDA's encrypted system. 10 minutes later, the mood flipped. Apologies were muttered, hands shaken. Even the SWAT guy holstered his rifle, grumbling, "Well, that's a new one." But Linda? She doubled down. "You're saying he can just run a secret lab in his backyard? In a family neighborhood? What about my dogs? The air?" The officer sighed. "Ma'am, he's a federal investigator running an authorized test on foodborne pathogens. It's all above board." That should have ended it. Instead, Linda crossed her arms and muttered, "I don't buy it. That badge could be fake." As the chaos cleared, I returned to my scattered equipment, furious but composed. The pathogen samples had a 6-hour window before they degrade, and Linda's antics had cost me precious time. She tipped off a local news crew who showed up late, just as she launched into a heroic tale of foiling a mad scientist. I declined their interview. The clip that aired showed Linda gesturing wildly while I walked past, carrying a tray of sterile samples, unfazed. By morning, it was viral, captioned, "Linda calls cops on FDA agent, thinks she's a hero." I got an apology from the police, and a typed letter slid under my door from Linda. Not an apology. Mind you, a community safety concern, claiming my lights and chemical odors caused her emotional distress. Attached was a blurry photo of me with a test tube, circled in red like a conspiracy theorist fever dream. I sipped coffee, rereading her letter, wondering if Willow Creek had always been this unhinged or if I'd just drawn the short straw living next to the cul-de-sac's unofficial dictator. Ignoring her felt tempting, but that letter wasn't a complaint, it was a battle cry. Linda had humiliated herself, but she wasn't done. And she had no idea she'd just picked a fight with someone who wielded FDA authority, legal leverage, and surveillance tools she couldn't fathom. Her mistake wasn't just misreading Science Seat, was refusing to learn, assuming instead of asking, accusing instead of verifying. Her 911 stunt risked an investigation that could have protected thousands. I'd spent years earning my role, mastering precision and discretion. Linda nearly torched it all with a hunch and a megaphone. What do you think? Was Linda a misguided neighbor or a reckless vigilante? Should I have confronted her sooner? Or was letting the evidence speak the smarter play? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more wild tales.